This is Sean with Project Education. Here's another talk with counselors and experts in how to become tougher through trauma. Hey, this is Sean. I'm here with Aisha, and Aisha's a specialized school social worker. Aisha, you want to tell us what that means and what you do?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So specialize in a sense of I work with pregnant, parenting, and sexually active teens, providing preventive services and supports in the area of sexual health.
Right. And how has that changed in light of the coronavirus and quarantine? Is your job different, or you're doing the same thing?
So I am still doing the same thing. It is very intense now in a sense because my job was based upon face-to-face contact. And now that we're in quarantine mode, I'm still able to communicate with my students. Mm-hmm. But it's a little tricky because now it's more so electronic, the phone communication, the emails, the text messages, those type of things. So it's not the concept of I'm physically going into a school and being in the same room as my student that I'm providing special services to. So it is a little bit more tricky.
Okay. And you told me this on a side conversation, but that you weren't getting as many calls as you were used to getting, right?
Well, it's tricky now because once I first establish a relationship with my students, I try to get their contact information, which I was very successful in getting the information. But now that we're in quarantine mode, it's a bit of a struggle as to if their cell phones are still on, if they're answering phone calls and text messages, that type of thing. And then we've been in quarantine mode and doing remote working for the school district now for about maybe 3 weeks or so. Mm-hmm. And I've been having some new referrals roll in, which has been interesting because it's all about how the referral source receives the information that a student is in need. So that's exciting and new for me too, to get remote referrals.
Yeah. And so for you to get a referral, it has to be a teen mom, right? Newly pregnant or newly aware?
My 3 reasons for referrals: new pregnancy, okay. Parenting, meaning that a staff member or someone just found out that a student is a parent, or even the preventive piece and learning that they are sexually active. So that could be just through a routine conversation with the student and they make reference to having a boyfriend and experimenting or whatever. And then I go into preventive mode. So I can receive referrals for any of those one of 3 reasons.
Right. Yeah. So people being quarantined doesn't stop any of that from happening?
Absolutely not. I had a student that I've been talking to the beginning of the week. I made contact with her because she moved, and she literally told me that her boyfriend has transportation and he is like traveling to spend time with her. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting once like the world opens back up. I definitely feel like I may have more referrals and more involvement for that reason, because we are quarantined, but in the teenage world, if you're with your neighbor next door or what have you, then things begin to happen.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Happen. So we think quarantine until we realize, oh, well, she or he went outside to get some air and one thing led to another.
Got more than air. Okay. I got you. And then I think you were mentioning to me too, there are some of the students you would have normally connected with, but they're not maybe as open to conversate about this kind of thing because their parents are in the next room or their little brother's got their ear underneath the door listening in. Is that another issue you think?
Correct, because now in the quarantine mode and how we're kind of surviving this thing, it turns into, yes, I'm home, but it's a strong possibility that my mom's home or dad or sibling or, whomever. So I'm not home alone to have these type of conversations. So it's a little tricky even in that sense, because when we're in the school setting, we're in a confidential private room and I'm providing services and supports. When they're at home, I don't know who's around and what can be said and how we can have this conversation. So that's been a bit of a struggle too.
Yeah, that sounds good. And definitely in the students I've been talking to, there is at least a majority that are telling me that they're definitely increased anxiety. They're dealing with more loneliness and isolation. Is that the same with the group that you're working with?
Absolutely so. And in a sense, when one is sexually active, sexually curious, have access to these things, then it's not like they're occupying their time like they would be through sports and, different extracurricular activities, because now they're homebound. So before, one would say, well, I don't have time for that because I have cheerleading or basketball or whatever. But now it's like I'm homebound and boyfriend has a car, or I have a cute friend neighbor guy, or whatever. So then I think that is increasing like the anxiety, the boredom, the I want companionship, which is going to end up equaling one thing leading to another. So it's like the waiting game in my world in regards to what will happen in statistics and referrals.
Interesting. What suggestions do you make to these students? Because when you describe it the way you do, it's like, oh, that's why you're turning to some of the things you're turning to. It's because you do want companionship, right? So what suggestions do you make? I mean, it's can't really just say it like, well, don't want companionship, right? Because it's not that easy.
Well, I think knowledge is power. So literally, you hear it all the time, but it's true. When you know better, you literally do better. So it's one thing to say, I want companionship. He's here, she's here, I'm going to hang. But one also must think about consequences, short-term and long-term. So yeah, if you're hanging and you're doing certain things that could end up in a result that you may not hope or want for right now, you also have to think like that as well. So one could say, oh, I'm hanging with my neighbor and he and I, we're having a good time or whatever. But also think that if you're having a great time, what could happen down the road, because you have to use those skills and think about kind of what you're doing and how you're doing it to know that one thing could literally lead to something else based upon actions.
Yeah, makes sense. So what are some alternate habits that somebody could develop to not walk down a more risky than necessary route? How about that?
Well, one thing is even saying that I know, what could happen, or one thing leading to another. So maybe we just have phone conversations and no, you can't come over, and no, I don't want to be any part of that because one thing will lead to another. So no, we can't be around each other in the same room. And then maybe just focusing on some other stuff. This is like literally a bonding time. I have a family of mine, so it's a bonding with family, just in your household, holding to that. I don't know, binge watching some TV shows, staying on point with schooling for these next 5 weeks, because I have to be honest, the whole online thinking, it's easy for some students, but it's not for others. So kind of getting acclimated to that type of stuff. House projects, I don't know, maybe you need to redo your room or something.
Clean your room. Your parents would be
right. So different little projects and things. You have to keep yourself busy. It's just insane at this point because we're keeping ourselves busy in our homes.
Okay. Yeah. Creating that alternate opportunity for yourself, right? So you're not just facing that temptation all day long. Okay.
Right.
And what are some of the things that you're worried are going maybe like underreported in this time? Because you're not the only social worker I've talked to that's mentioned there was a little bit of a delay in people reaching out. Do you think people are doing just fine, or do you think there's some stuff that's just not being talked about?
Absolutely not. I mean, let's be realistic. We have a pandemic out there that's keeping everybody in the house. No, but I'm not doing fine.
Right now, yeah, me too.
So I'm not even going to believe it. I'm not doing fine. And I have 15 years of social work mental health experience underneath my belt. It's tricky because we are literally in unknown times right now. And not saying that that's all the way a bad thing, but I'm saying we're being exposed to things. I've never been through a pandemic that keeps me quarantined in the house. So to be realistic, no, I do not believe students are doing fine, because a lot of students are used to extracurricular activities and their friends and just moving and flowing and living life. I have many seniors on my caseload that now are experiencing like a virtual graduation concept. And I mean, you do 13 years of schooling to get to a point where I can't even walk across a stage and physically get a diploma type of concept. So I totally do not believe that students are doing fine from a mental health social emotional perspective, because I know what I'm feeling. I know what I'm experiencing. And my fear is I'm able to cope. I'm able to kind of like understand the process, use some, adapting skills and things of that nature. What happens when you're dealing with these students that don't have that?
Yeah. What are some of those skills? I think we'd all benefit from knowing with all your experience. Obviously, you're admitting that you're dealing with some of the effects of this. So what do you do?
I am a TV watcher. I like to watch TV. So I am so busy in multiple jobs and multiple things. There's been many shows that I say I'm going to watch and don't, but now this is giving me the opportunity to do that. This is giving me the opportunity to do home projects. Like I know that I need to tidy up on this or redo this room or whatever.
Okay.
That's giving me opportunity to do that. Establishing relationships with like family and friends from a virtual phone concept. So maybe communicating with the outside world, not going outside, but for the simple fact that maybe I have some loved ones that I've been meaning to call that I haven't called or whatever. So I'm literally just trying to use those services. I'm bike riding now. Now listen, I've had a bike in the shed for like a year or better.
Yeah.
And I pulled it off, I've dusted off, and I safely kind of try to get my exercise mode in, things that I honestly was not doing before, to be honest.
You're the third social worker I've talked to that has triggered
bike
riding. Yeah. That seems like the common denominator. I think people just need to buy bikes and it'll all be better.
So that's the trick, though. There are not many out there now. I have neighbors looking for bikes and all types of stuff.
That's the industry to be in.
So that's what I think in regard and communication. So I'm having some students where I'm struggling in regards to, like, we had a great relationship at school, physical, face to face. Now that we're doing this whole over the phone, communication in that way, I can't really talk because of my household and my surrounding. Now I'm losing some of that rapport that I built because of the current setup and situation that we're in.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. And so sounds to me like you're going to be staying kind of busy and you've got more people to talk to about bike riding and the benefits for your mental health.
Yes.
What's a good goal for people? Like, because I was talking to someone and they said, well, I wasn't doing great before this. And I'm not so sure I'm doing great now either. And so I wonder if the person who's thinking, I got to find a way to feel no anxiety during this time and to get 100% better, is that unrealistic? Like, is there just a certain amount of like low level anxiety and difficulty that's comes with life?
Correct. And especially in a time like this, and I'm not an anxious person, really. So you also have to think of the situation that you're going through and the time. It is unrealistic to think that you won't experience certain emotions, especially in a time like this. So to say I'm going to become 100% better in a time of quarantine, struggle with outside world communication, I just don't know how realistic that is. Because even from the standpoint of mental health services, we're in telemedicine mode even of that. But majority of the time, even if you needed therapeutic services, you went and you sat on your therapist's couch.
Right.
Or wherever. It wasn't a concept of I am communicating with you via telemedicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it's unrealistic to say that this is a time where whatever struggles I had with anxiety and nervousness and mental health, that I'm going to knock it out of the park and be 100% better. And I think it's okay that one is not, because it's a tough time right now.
Right. That's good. That's really good. So I'm hearing you say, reinforce some of your, just like getting busy about other positive things. Do you have any other resources that a student should like lock into? Like you were mentioning, tapping into the technology so we can reach out like this. via technology. So I guess you can keep some level of community. You can direct some energy to the bike or to the outdoors or to the home projects. Are there other things like, do you implement any breathing techniques? Do you find any advantages to, I know some of the counselors I've talked to have like talked about spiritual things and thinking, and any of those tools you find helpful to you?
I do, in a sense, because now I'm like getting involved in things that time just kind of wouldn't let me. Before, even from the spiritual concept, and now participating in, like online Facebook worshiping and different things like that. Because before, on a Sunday, I may have physically been at somebody's job, and now due to this, I may not be doing that.
Right.
Literally saying I am going to, and I have not done it yet, but my plan is to, and you may hold me accountable for this one.
All right.
Now that I'm putting it on video. No, I want to get more healthy. So more from the exercise concept, and not just even the biking piece, but figuring out certain exercises and getting in a routine here at home. Because if not, let's be real, you got snacks, you begin to eat,
yes.
time. So I want to kind of like mix in some exercising components into that. So we shall see. Yeah. But I feel like whatever a person wants to do at this point, it's time to do it.
Yeah, that's good. My buddy just texted me this morning, and he said he's going to do 300 push-ups a day for 30 days. And so I think
you have time now at this point.
I was like, yeah, me too. I was scared. Yeah, we have the time. No excuse.
Yeah, you have the time. So maybe it's not 300 push-ups, but maybe you go slow. Okay, I'm going to do 50 to your 300.
Yeah, just like 3. How about that? Yeah. Right. But yeah, pushing yourself. I get that. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. Okay. I'm working extremely hard in this setting, though, which I would like to believe I work hard in all settings. But when I say extremely hard in this setting, because when I am at work, I work extremely hard, but I have the ability to leave work.
Right.
Now being in the home remote work setting, home and work are intertwined. So when the computer dings, I'm running like, oh, what's happening? When the phone rings, I'm like, oh, I'm here, because everything is literally here at my fingertips.
Right. Work is now in the home. So it's all
right. So when I'm in my school setting, once the day wraps up and it's time to wrap up for the day, you turn your laptop on, and it's not a lot of practice to say, I'm going to go home and I'm going to cut my laptop back on and begin to diligently work as hard as I was in that school setting. Of course, unless we have reports and different things to do. But a lot of times you turn your laptop off at school when the day ends, and it's off until you re-enter school.
Right. Wow.
But here it's there. So now you're literally like, oh, it's on. And all throughout the day, you're like working and chiming and doing stuff. So before you know, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah. I don't know what you do, but I know for me, I've been just leaving my laptop in a room that is the room that I do this kind of stuff in. And I just don't take it out. Like, I don't want my now work laptop and work life to blend into my couch and blend into my kids' playroom and like become, now I'm working in all these spaces that for me are sacred. Like time with my kids, I want it to just be time with my kids and, time with my spouse. So I'm trying to find physical boundaries to put in place. Like that's the room that I do that in, and I just try to leave it alone if I can.
So it's tricky for me. And in the last, originally when we started this new initiative, the end of March, it was a struggle to like turn it off and separate. But as the weeks went on, I'm trying to be more diligently in doing that. Yeah. But because I love what I do and my kids are so specialized and kind of sensitive into their needs, it just depends upon the timing of the student that I'm dealing with and their needs. So if they reach out to me, I reach back.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Well, I mean, you're doing a great job. I don't know anyone doing exactly your job just like you. And
you too. We can relate.
I know. Yeah, we've been partnering a lot, so it's been nice working with you.
Hey, definitely a blessing. Definitely a blessing. I was speaking to my supervisor in regards to you and Calvary yesterday, and I'm like, quarantine or whatever, we're gonna be connected with Sean and Calvary.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been really positive. We've been enjoying it. So keep letting me know
Yeah,
if you guys need help. All right.
definitely appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Aisha. Thanks for doing this recording with us. We'll probably get you on again because you got so much good insight. All right.
Thank you so much. You take care. Be safe and well.
All right. Take care.